Charles. I don't see Chip. What time is it? It's 6 o'clock. Okay, well, maybe he'll join us. I think we have a quorum, right? Alfonso, Kara, Charles, John, Mark, Rudy, Wanda. Okay.
I think so.
Yeah. All right, we'll call the meeting to order for the City of Sunset Valley. I am the only one here tonight. Come on, you chickens. On August 6th at 6 o'clock. All right, John, good to see you.
I share my video with you.
I'm always glad to have you. I don't feel so weird when I'm just staring at myself. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. We just did that. Citizen comments. All right, going once, twice. We'll move on to minutes. Rudy had a correction on your address, I think. Regine, did you get that?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Michael, this is Charles.
Hey, Charles.
Hi. Hey, I have a correction also. If you look at item number 5 in the minutes,
Okay.
Charles Goyette voted no and yes on both items. I think, well, it's not I think. The first column, the Charles Goyette, that needs to be Charles Young.
Oh, yeah, you voted twice.
Yep.
That's pretty amazing.
You're good.
You're good.
Yeah, I mean, God forbid I vote with the majority, right? I mean, it'd be against my brain.
You cover all your bases. Yeah.
And that was done twice, Charles. Did you notice that? It was done twice.
I know.
Yeah, twice. Regine, you get that?
I did get that. Thank you.
Okay. Good catch, Charles. Let's see if we can try some more of that tonight.
All right.
It looks like it's correct further down. On 7.
John, you might want to ask John Belanca, did he mean to vote yes on number 7 on the minutes? Because I know his stance.
I'm trying to pull them up right now.
I'll read it to you. Number 7 says that you vote to increase the solid waste rate by $10 per month.
Absolutely not.
And it says yes for your vote.
Thanks, Rudy. I was hoping to
Incorrect.
I could play that later. John.
Got it.
All right. Any other corrections? Nice catch. All right. A motion? Someone?
Motion to pass.
Charles, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Blanca, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion, opposed, no? Great, thank you. All right, Wanda?
Okay, so we had a council meeting on Tuesday, another short one, only lasted until 10:15. So we had a couple of variance requests, and one was withdrawn, one was approved due to some of the mitigation that they were doing. We approved the marketing contract. We had some changes in the contract, but for better watching, just to watch it a little bit better and control it a little better. And so that was approved. And then we had a lengthy presentation on the lift station, which will come back to council at some point. I believe all council members are in favor of getting the lift station problem resolved, but we have to find the right resolution for it. So, and that was the meeting. Any questions for me?
Fix that lift station.
Yes, I totally agree.
That's a beast.
Yeah.
But just to add to that, the engineering firm wants to spend $82,000, wants us to approve $82,000 just for them to look at it and give us some solutions. So we asked them nicely to go back to the drawing board.
Yes, we pushed back quite heavily on that engineering report, and it was very enlightening. So, yes,
And I'm glad you did.
yes.
Hold on. Okay. All right, we're down to the 5th agenda item. Thank you, Wanda. Review, discuss, and possible action on amending Financial Policy 103, discussing general financial guidelines of the city of Sunset. Wanda?
So, Sylvia, do you want to talk about how we're going to do this before we
Yes.
get into the details? Okay.
Yes, so when we first began discussing the financial policies, the two council members and I, Susanna, Regine, we thought about making amendments to FP 103. And as you saw in the document that was distributed, it's actually FP 105.
Yeah.
So when you open FP 103, we're going to propose the changes that were in your email, but we're going to fit them within 103. And I'll show you that here in just a second. Let me pull that up.
Okay.
One of the reasons we want to fill out the committee on this is that we will be presenting this to the council at the next council meeting. And so we do want to get the committee's input on that. And otherwise we could reschedule this and have another meeting, but I don't think that's really what we want to do. So.
Well, that was one of my questions. I wondered what the catalyst was because we all wanted to meet the following week, and it was long through last week. And so, are you visioning this fitting into somehow the budget process this year, or?
So this will be part of the budget presentation, and it kind of sets our guidelines. For example, that we review monthly statements. So it kind of it establishes some guidelines that we need to put in place fairly quickly. And so that's why we wanted to present it as a package with the budget.
Okay. Yeah, I like the idea of putting in writing that we do the monthlies.
Uh-huh.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Sylvia.
Yes, so let me pull up what I just taped. Okay. So in FP, can everybody see my screen? Oh, there, it was paused.
103.
Okay. So in FP 103, we have essentially what we're trying to gain. We're trying to gain some flexibility. We're trying to gain some accountability. We're trying to gain some measurement and management tools. And what was sent out in the council, well, in the email just a bit ago. Let me close out what I have here. No, FP 105. This is FP 105. So all revenues, all operating revenues and expenditures shall be monitored monthly. This falls in line with the overall goals of cash solvency, budget solvency, long-term solvency, and service level solvency. So I think that one can fit in here if that's something the committee is in support of, and it sounded like you were. The other one, and this is the question Terry posed earlier to the group, is revenue should be conservatively projected and expenditures budgeted at 97% to help ensure budget solvency. Again, you'll see where that falls into the solvency point in 103. And really, from my experience, what we had to do as department heads is we used to receive a number from the city manager's office after our budgets were submitted. So my department was development services, issued over 20,000 permits a year, and during one of the fastest growing housing times in South Texas, much like what Austin is feeling today. But my department was what we call a special revenue fund. It was dependent on its own fees from permits, and at that time our permits used to be $35. And then we used to receive an influx from the general fund of about $6 million. And so the organization and the outside world wanted to be masters of our own universe, so to speak. And the only way you can do that is to wean yourself from the general fund. Because we all know where the sucking sound is in the general fund, right? The public safety and also the salary costs continue to go up. So the group established a development services advisory group, and we reviewed the fees, and we were able to wean ourselves from the general fund. In order to do that, and so we stopped asking, we were able to manage our own internal expenses, and then we became an enterprise fund. To the enterprise funds, which is streets, solid waste, utilities, and in normal cities and other cities, the city manager's office would say, okay, you have expenses of $6 million. I need you to be able to save, quote unquote, 3% of that. And we would do that in a variety of ways, and we never knew what that number was. The manager's office and the executive team knew, because they knew what departments were in quote unquote trouble or what departments were going to face solvency issues that year. What that forced me to do is, number one, take a really good look at my staffing and make sure that who I hired, when I hired, and made sure that I could get to that percentage. Obviously, if things happened, a hurricane or something like that, and I couldn't save the 3%, I mean, there was always extenuating circumstances. But the other thing it forced the executive team to do, and later as I became an assistant city manager there, what it forced me to do is, much like you guys were doing line by line, it forced me to push back on the directors and say, I know you put too much in that fund, or I know that line item isn't that. What are you doing with that? Or I was able to find other pots of money. As opposed to me going line by line, I forced them to tell me where you're going to kick that back. Sometimes that number was 6%, sometimes that number was 2%. The department, it wasn't going to go back to the departments, and the department directors were really forced to manage their budgets on a weekly, monthly basis to ensure that their target was going to be able to meet what the manager's office had said. Right now, there's no point for us. There's no economic development fund. There's nothing at all at play like that. It's just forcing us to be more accountable, and it's forcing us to not live by the seat of our pants and try to get every available dollar that has been appropriated to the departments and divisions.
I like it. And I thought
I'm at a small loss, if I could comment.
Sure.
How do you do that on a monthly basis when some expenses you budget for the entire year and they all come due, like paying an insurance bill, right? Or whatever it is. It's a big item that falls in 1 month, not necessarily prorated, if you know what I mean.
Well, no, but in my report to the executive team, I would make note of that. It was basically from an accrual standpoint. I know that in this month, I should be allocating $50,000 or whatever that money is for this big bill I'm going to have at the end of the year. So that was accounted for in that manner.
But what if that bill comes due the first month of the budget, right? Very first month.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So I'm, again, footnoting it, and it's forcing me as the director or the division head to explain to the executive staff and the other staff and myself so that I'm really on point. I know what's due when, and I know how much I have, and I know how much I need to save.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So you're combining B and C in that conversation?
No, they stand alone.
Okay.
B is forcing the monthly report.
That's just a
Two,
review of financials. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
and then I'll go into D and then D and the next one, and then we can go over any questions. D was, much like we've talked about, it's not just funding a new service. It's not just saying, the Star Party is going to cost $5,000 or mulch costs $8,000. It's actually knowing what things really cost, because you never know the full cost of something until you're down the road, and then you're going, oh man, I didn't know I needed this much staff, so we're not going to be able to do this other thing, right? And from a executive management standpoint, in the budget, everything is an opportunity cost. I am giving up something to do something else because I have a finite amount of money. And if I'm not managing my budget like that, then I've got a problem. And so this forces us to not only look at adequate funding, but it's also forcing us to look at what that true funding cost is. And then in my word is kind of stuck, you see it. Governmental fund balance, this is what Councilmember Reeves had brought up last week. Governmental fund balance equal to actual revenue for the preceding 5 years. That's the fund balance discussion that we had, not just 1 year in arrears, but the average of 5 years.
It doesn't say average. Need to insert that.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yes, it's preceding.
That would be a really big fund balance.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
We need 20 million in our account, 25 million.
Go.
My word document just died. Okay.
We can make that change.
Yes. While I am doing that, does anybody have any questions on the other?
On the operating revenue and expenditures shall be monitored
Monthly.
Monthly. I'd like a little more specific. Will be reviewed by the Budget and Finance. I don't know if council wants to take on doing in-depth budget reviews. So I guess we follow the protocol being reviewed by Budget and Finance, then council, as opposed to just monitored. Monitored means somebody looked them over.
And that would be my intent, that we bring it to Budget and Finance for scrutiny and review.
Excuse me, Michael?
Charles?
On that same item, the language that was lined out, and when necessary, adjusted to ensure expenditures do not exceed revenues. That's all still appropriate, right? I mean, it really just over time needs to be replaced with monthly. And like you were saying, Michael, maybe the addition of more specificity in terms of who's doing the monitoring.
Yeah, I was okay with the line out because really we do that at budget time, right? I mean, that's and in the monitoring process, we're going to be aware of overruns. So it seemed kind of useless in there. Was that what you're saying?
Well, I thought it could have added a little more to the sentence, but just my perspective.
Okay, I'm back. So here is, I'm sorry, so 5 years of maintained equal to 100% of average revenue. Got it.
So one of the thoughts on, Charles, what you were talking about is when an expenditure exceeds the budget, we do a budget amendment that has to be approved. And it's usually what happens, what Regina has done in the past, she finds another account that is underspent and basically balances them out so that she basically takes from another account that's fairly similar. So we could add I mean, I'm okay adding that. I mean, what do you guys think?
Yeah, that's fine. We usually do that at the end of the year. We do a big cleanup unless there's
Yeah.
a large item, and then we go hunting for the money. But usually at the end of the year, she does a kind of a big sweep to make it all balance out. But I'm okay with it either way.
Yeah, I think
Excuse-
she also does it quarterly. Is that right, Regine?
Do it
So,
quarterly.
I do them quarterly when there's a several of them, but if there's only one or two, I normally just hang on to that because they've normally been approved by council ahead of time or the department head or something like that. So, but there is one big one at the final year, which won't be very big this year because we're not doing too much. But you can do them monthly. I tell you why I don't like to do monthly or why I didn't like to do monthly, but with general gov it might not be that hard. Is every time you do a budget amendment, have it approved, you have to go in and recreate the budget with amendment number 1, and then you have a new approved budget, and then amendment 2. So you have to do that every time. So if we do one every month, there would be 12 budget amendments and 12 new approved budgets, which you can do. So and I would think with OpenGov now that might be an easier thing to do at this point.
That was what was going to be my follow-up question to what Wanda said. It sounded like, Wanda, that's what you were talking about, going through that process, making these adjustments, going through some approval process on a monthly basis, just to keep our budget as controlled as possible, given the uncertainty of the situation we're in and the expected, shortfall in our revenues. And with OpenGov, I mean, I think that's gonna be I'm assuming that's gonna be much more of an automated process. Once that the data's in, it should be, the kind of like the proverbial press of the key and boom, you got a new budget.
So, Susanna, could you comment on that with OpenGov, what you would have to do there?
Well, we're currently working to get OpenGov integrated with our current accounting system. So we will be able to have the actuals uploaded automatically on a daily basis to OpenGov, so we can create a report. I'm not sure, I haven't played around with it enough to be able to tell you if it'll look exactly like what you guys normally see with your quarterly reports. Which I know is what you guys are used to seeing when comparing budget to actuals. But I'm sure we can get something very close.
Well, I think maybe you guys are onto something. If we're going to be watching the budget as closely as we anticipate, that perhaps we should make those adjustments along the way instead of just broom cleaning it all up at the end.
That would be my personal preference, and Regine's right. From going back and recreating, I mean, you've seen how big the spreadsheets get and how they're, how Susanna interlinked them. It is, in my personal preference, it is something that we do from a running total every month because people tend to forget, our minutes are just summary minutes, so we miss a lot of the detail. And then what has been my experience is, hey, no, we moved $500 out of that, or we moved $5,000 out of that. No, we didn't. Yes, we did. We talked about it. We didn't do it. So it is, because we're keeping such a tight lid, I would like to make those changes monthly. Yeah.
Okay, good. I think that's a good idea. Unless there's any objection from the committee members. Everybody good? We got a problem? Okay. We're going to put that back in. Can you pull those up? Can you pull 103 back up?
Yes. Oh, 105.
105, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Whoop.
This is 105.
Yes. So operating revenue expenditures shall be monitored and adjusted accordingly to ensure expenditures do not exceed revenue over time.
Yeah, so we would just put monthly right where the cursor is and keep everything as is.
Yep. I do like the idea of putting reviewed by budget and finance.
Okay.
And putting that in there. unless there's any objection.
Can I make a general comment about this document?
Of course.
It is so distracting to me. I hate making this comment, but I'll make it anyway. Little typos in the document bother me, right? Lining up subparagraphs and sub-subparagraphs, just lining them up for viewability and professional document, right? Have all the 1A, 1B, 1Cs lined up.
Oh, I see.
You know what I'm saying? It's just, I look at this, I get distracted. I just wanted to say that.
Okay.
Thank you. Point taken. We converted it from Adobe to Word. No excuse. Point taken. Point taken.
It doesn't like that. Okay, that's B. On to C. Any questions there, committee members? Sylvia, I thought your email was excellent.
Thank you.
No questions on C. Any questions on D?
My only comment on D is I would also like assistance from the Budget and Finance Committee as we review the cost of service. Those are, that document, as I showed you before, serves three purposes. It looks at our efficiencies, right? It's almost like a time and motion study.
Time and motion, yeah.
It also allows us to say, hey, why is this higher level person even touching this? If we move that out, we can reduce the cost, and then, you know, delegate it to a subordinate or a direct line supervisor. And then it also allows us the ability, once we're done, to create the SOP out of those steps in that document.
Yeah. You know, I think that's one of the things we kind of got our tail in a crack on. The lift station's a really good example of that. We, you know, continue to create more programs, which we wanted, but we didn't quite know the cost benefit analysis, right? Of, well, if you, as you apply more projects, something's got to wait. And so when we do consider new programs, there really should be an analysis of can we actually implement this effectively? If not, what maybe needs to be traded off, or what's the long-term cost impact, right? We always talk about we buy land, and one of my always thing is then we landscape it, and so the long-term costs of projects sometimes aren't taken into consideration when we take them and add them to the budget. So I think that's kind of what you're going after here.
Yes.
Good.
Question?
Michael, under C2A, where it says the actual 5 years, is that where we put in the average of 5 years?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Your copy doesn't say average. I just typed in average.
Yeah, it got missed. It got added into the one we're looking at.
Okay.
Charles?
Yeah, I wanted to go back to item number D, 1C1D. That cost of service, I think, is that to me is the crux of this whole thing, and the really foundational change item. And I'm just wondering where that data is going to be maintained. How does it show up in our documentation? Because I think it's a very important number, and a lot of our budgeting is going to be based off that information, I think.
Yeah. Sylvia?
That's a very good point. I could put it in, well, the first obvious place is the SOP that would be created out of it, right? The standard operating procedure. But we could always, and we should, make it as an addendum, an appendix to the budget every year.
Hallelujah.
Right.
In fact, couldn't it be possibly rolled into the budget in some way in terms of how some of the information, the line items are created? Just an idea.
Yes, in the mayor's budget transmittal letter that we're working on, we talk about cost of service and we show an example.
Great. And if I may, just the next item, line E, the long-range financial plan. I'm not sure if I've ever seen one, and if I have, it didn't impress me because I don't remember it. But then again, I'm the new guy, right? I'm the new guy. I probably just didn't understand it. But
Oh,
I'm wondering, not to hurt anybody's feelings here. I don't know
no,
who's
but
behind it.
I
I don't
do.
even know where it comes from. But this long-range financial plan, do we have a specific format? I mean, do we have guidelines in how this is generated? Where does it show up? Is it part of the budget? Is it going to be, an addendum again to, to the budget package? Because we haven't talked long-range financial plan that I'm aware of since I joined this committee.
Well, we talked about it and looked at it last year, and it was part of the deal this year. But then came the COVID issue, and who could do a long range financial plan? And part of that process is changing that every year. And I think we talked earlier on
That
to put
that's
that kind of
yeah,
aside this year, just because it would be purely. Well, we were busy with other things to start with, but secondly, we had no clue about how to formulate a long-term financial plan. But it definitely needs to be
that's true. You
part
jogged
of
my
the
memory.
process. And
Yeah,
and there is a plan, Charles. We can get you a copy of that. It's
Well, I was just curious how formal it is and how rigorous it is, and if we have specific like policy type guidelines to create that thing.
and again,
you
it's one of
should.
those documents. It every year it gets better. We created it out of thin air, and it probably is still lacking, but we're making it better.
Yeah, I think you should be able to find it under publications on the website and then go to finance, and it should be in finance.
Yeah.
So you should be able to do that. We can see
Okay.
that just to make sure. And if I'm not mistaken, I thought that that was one of the very first things that this committee did, uh, is kind of reviewed that. And this was before COVID happened. And so it was kind of a quick review. And yeah, we're, we're okay. But again,
Yeah,
that was
You
I'm
before
talked about
COVID.
it.
I'm recollecting now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you guys were talking about it latter part of, Charles, you would have just been seated on the committee.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I'm
Yes.
remembering now. I just don't have much of a memory of it. That's all. But okay, sorry, I went off track.
Understandable.
And it is under, if you look under publications and you look under publications and then you go to finance, it is under the long range financial planning report, and then the long range financial plan it was updated. Well, what I have on here is 2016.
Oh, it's been updated since then.
Nope,
Prove it.
it hasn't been updated. What we've done is after 2016 for budget that was fiscal year 17, we compared it to the long range plan in 17 and 18, and then we started talking about redoing it, and then COVID hit, and so it all just kind of went to the wayside for now until we figure out what we're going to do with the COVID.
That was another one of our action items this year. In addition to digging into repair and replacement, we were going to spend time on that, and
Right.
here we are. The best laid plans.
Can
John,
tell
there
you
were
what
some
we can
new-
do with COVID.
John, there were some new charts and stuff provided, but we never got into those because COVID hit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we didn't formalize, because I know we changed some of the
Yeah.
projections, the numbers.
Yeah,
but we
you're
never
exactly
got
right.
to formalize
You're
anything,
exactly
right?
Yeah. We
Yeah,
did spend
I don't
time.
believe it ever went before council. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, you can pull up 105 again. Right. Any questions then on D? We are okay. We covered.
Are we? Where is I'm like John. It's almost impossible for me to follow this where it's laid out.
That's in the Financial Policy 105. That was in one of the emails that came out.
Yeah, I've got it, but
Okay.
it's so scrambled I can't figure out where D is.
It's right toward the bottom of the first page. About the third item up.
C1D.
Oh,
Big
C1D.
paragraph C, 1D.
So it's part of C. It's not a D separate.
Yeah, it's a sub item D. Yeah. That's what John was saying. It's a little
Oh
maddening.
my gosh, that's impossible. Is it under 2 or is it under 1 or where is it?
It's it's a B, and C, and then there's 1D. Come on, Bob.
This is ridiculous.
You find it?
Is it the city shall not adopt any city services until a cost service is reviewed and the actual service? That's what we just were doing. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, I'm there.
Okay.
I've been there, but I didn't know it.
All right, we're on the top of page 2 then. And we added the word average. Any other discussion? Is there a motion on these proposed changes?
So moved.
There's a
But,
motion.
okay, can I say that the motion has to be that these are incorporated into FP 103?
Okay, Regine. Gonna read the motion back?
Dr. Browning made a motion to approve the changes to Financial Policy 105 and with incorporation into FP 103. I'll have to doctor that up a little bit, but
Good.
Correct. Is there a second?
I'll second it, but I think I want to see 103 when you get done with it.
Sure.
Okay. Second.
Any other discussion then on the motion? Do a roll
Michael,
call?
I have
Charles?
something to ask. Yeah, I guess to Sylvia, I had a whole slew of questions on this thing, but again, it's my lack of familiarity to a large degree, I'm sure. But so I'll ask before anything else, has anything else changed on this? Has staff changed any other items besides what we see here that we've already discussed?
No.
Okay.
I would also, I would like to ask a couple of questions about it before we vote on it. This
Now's the time.
certificates of obligation, what does that mean? I think that's 4D.
Or D.
Not familiar with that.
Well, certificates of obligation are debt. And they're debt normally derived from tax revenue that's going to be paid with tax revenue. And this policy says COs shall be used to finance infrastructure improvements for public benefits that support quality of life. We don't borrow money in Sunset Valley. We pay as we go. That's one of the things in the investment policy that we're going to, I would really like us to look at, because if we have the ability to borrow from the Water Development Board, for example, or any one of the funding mechanisms that's available to local governments, and we can borrow at 0.5% or 1%, and if we can buy a short-term CD and earn 3%, right, there's a hedge factor there of money we can earn. But all of those things need to be scrutinized very closely. And that's not something that I should do in isolation, nor the council. That requires some financial astuteness, and it's more than one meeting. But that's what COs are, certificates of obligation or debt.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you, Sylvia.
You just answered 3 or 4 more questions. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah, when you do pay as you go, it really can cripple operations occasionally. And then if you're doing long-term bonds that service the next 20 or 30 years, by borrowing, you spread that out and let people for the next 20 or 30 years pay into the retirement of that debt as they're using it. So
Yep.
yeah, that's philosophically, that's the good side of bonds. It can be abused and has to be carefully watched, but it certainly can be used as a mechanism to make change without crippling a budget. So.
That's absolutely right. And then there are programs like, for example, even though Hurricane Harvey hit on the coast, there were some programs that were approved for the entire state. And so Central Texas, for example, was able to benefit from some water programs that the state made available in their funding pool at 0%. So if there's an ability for us to capitalize on those kinds of funds, then it would be silly for us not to.
Well, that's not a very popular position, but I hear you. All right. There's any other discussion on the motion?
I do have another question, Michael.
No.
You're the chair. You can deny me, but you won't like it because I'm going to be mad.
No, go ahead. Come on.
All right. In section 3, I had, I mean, we're talking about, being more granular in terms of looking at our budgets. We're talking about a monthly budget, and for example, well, actually, I was looking in section 4 in regard to item B, the city shall review its capital improvements plan annually. Maybe again, we want a little more granularity. I was thinking a semi-annual look. I mean, the capital budget has taken, I know Terry has mentioned it on the fact that, and maybe Sylvia, in terms of there's items in that budget that really don't belong there. They're too small. It needs to be reorganized.
Okay.
Excuse me?
Is that what you're talking about, repair and replacement?
Yeah. And as far as item number 3, operate utilities, well, it's talking about, I was looking at item C in that section in terms of fund balances should be maintained to meet a target level of 90 days of operating and maintenance expenses necessary. No, that's not the one. I had a question on how this item was budgeted, but on item B, that caught my attention, and it doesn't seem like it's something that we say we do, but we don't practice. The cost of utility contractual services, which the city has no control over, shall be passed through to residential and commercial users in a manner consistent with council direction. It sounds like, as the expenses move, so too do the rates, and so too do the change in rates that the residents pay for their service. That's what it sounded like to me.
That's what it is. It says the cost of water from the city of Austin goes up. Those increases in price get passed on. We do that.
Okay, all right, that's true. I was thinking of the wastewater and the rest, because that's more fixed. But okay, I hear you. We do pass the water change rates up onto the customer. Okay. Yep. Just wanted to throw that out there.
All right. Any other discussion?
And as far as capital improvement plans, it's our plan that you guys pick that up. Suzanne and I are hoping to bring that to you in September, and that has to tie into our land use plan and our land development plan. I mean, they're tied at the hip. And, again, that's one of those pieces you cannot plan it in isolation. As you're talking about what your growth or growth pattern or projected growth changes are, you need to be able to provide improvements to that. Not maintenance, improvements, whether it's upsizing, those kinds of things. But we've kind of had a disconnect, and I think I talked to Michael about that right when I kind of first started on, we need to tie those things together. So normally it's part of the budget process, but this year we really sort of moved out all of the projects out of the budget.
Just real quick while I'm thinking about it, Susanna, if we're going to do monthly budget reviews, then we'll need to think about the timing of our meetings and when you'll have those ready. Just a note between you and I can look at a calendar and then bring some different dates back to council, back to the committee members on scheduling future meeting dates so that we can you can be finished with your reconciles, and we can bring them back to the committee.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be great. Yeah, let's talk about that later.
Yep. But if I don't mention it while I'm thinking about it, it'll be gone. Any other discussion? We'll try and vote now. We'll do a roll call. We'll start at the top. Alfonso? All in favor, say aye. Or Alfonso, yes or no? I'm sorry.
You saw-
Go.
Okay,
Yes.
Dr. Brown. Alfonso's a yes. Charles Goyer?
Yes.
Yes. John Belanca?
Yes.
Mark? Mark?
He's
You're muted.
self-muted. He says, I'm having mic issues. And there's one correction to delete budgeted in Sylvia's version. It is 2A ahead of actual. Yes,
Oh, yeah.
yes.
Okay. Is he a yes then?
After that, Mr. Bruner, are you a yes? Yes, yes.
Okay, good. Thank you for that. And Dr. Browning, you were no?
Yes.
Yes, you were a no, or yes?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I'm voting yes.
That's okay. And I vote in favor. Motion passes. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Nicely done. Thank you for catching all that, Wanda and Sylvia.
Mhm.
All right. Review, discuss, and possible recommendations on the
Quarterly
quarterlies.
financial report.
Yeah.
This is Regine's baby.
Come on, Regine.
So, the first 5 pages are the sales tax report, which goes through July, which y'all have already seen, but it is incorporated into this report so that it can go to council as to get it accepted. So nothing has changed from them. I don't think we've gotten August numbers yet, unless we got them today. Sylvia, did anybody do anything on that
No.
today?
No,
Okay.
we haven't gotten them yet.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think it's next Thursday. So anyway, that's where we're at on that. We're down. Hold on, I'm looking at mine.
These are the same numbers we saw recently?
Yeah, same that y'all saw recently.
No,
Nothing has
I
changed.
didn't do a comparison. Has anything changed?
No, not on this report.
Charles? Any questions for Regine on the quarterlies? Wow.
Yeah, I have a
All right.
question. I mean, just on the sheet, or are you looking at the whole stack? Is that a question for the
Whole
whole,
thing.
this whole stack
Yeah,
of
if you got any
paper?
questions, now's the time.
Okay. Yeah, I do. I mean, if you go to 3 sheets into this stack, technically page 1, it's another one of those.
Charles, if you use the number on the report that is circled,
Yeah, the page number that's there.
Somebody's getting back.
Okay, go up, just scroll up a page, another page. Page number 1. Okay, yeah, all right, that's the page. Just looking at those red numbers, and it just seems odd that, revenues for public works is well, I guess like a negative revenue. How does that happen? And in the expenditure, I mean, is a negative revenue an expenditure? Why, I mean,
okay,
am I missing?
the red in revenue means that we have not collected that amount of money. So if you look at the first one in admin, our budget is 3 million. I mean, the budget is 5 million. We've collected 3,000,005. So we are short 1,588,000. That's what the red in the revenue means.
Okay.
It's money that is short, and they show it in red.
It's money that's due, but that
That's
hasn't
due.
been yet received.
That's correct.
Okay, all right. Good. And I do have, so yeah, and I guess the same would, so how would it apply in the expenditure area, like that 395.12 in general government?
That is a credit to the account. So on that specific line item, that is a budget amendment line, because if you'll see there's zero budget, and there's an adjustment there that I believe I have it. Well, I don't have it on the side, but that's a credit to the account.
Okay. All right. And just another general comment that I made that I found through many of these sheets, and it reflects back on the budget and all the nitpicking I've been doing in terms of where things fall and how things are organized. And just looking at like page 5, for example, the circled page 5.
Let's see. Let me go there. Oh, not too far.
There you go. Okay, there, right.
Okay.
You know, just looking, I mean, a lot of these items are zeroed out, but nonetheless, you know, right up from the very top, general fund, this is administration, all of these items. But yet you can see there's a lot of stuff like the first like 6 items looks like they could really technically belong in the public works department. And then there's in contract services, there's police department, public works department, you know, in the further down records management, again, you know, there's these outside departments that fall outside of administration, and even new projects, trails projects, 34 recent improvements, all these items. What the heck are they doing in administration, right? You know, is that something that we want to fix? Is that something that, you know, that we feel is rational and belongs there? I mean, you know, can we manage a budget when we don't have good separation between our departments in terms of accounting for, well, not so much revenues, but for expenses?
So
Anyway,
this is my comment on that, Charles. The things that you're talking about, say for instance, like IT management services, that is an administrative department contract.
well, I wasn't talking about IT management services. I was talking about something a little bit more obvious. I mean,
Like
I can
which
see
one?
where you can make an argument for IT management services,
Okay.
but how do you make an argument for trails projects, master
Okay.
plan, or right?
Projects are under administration because we don't have a department that has just projects. So I put them all under administration, and so that they're all together under one account. I believe that'll all change with the new way we're doing the budget and the OpenGov and all that. I think that's already in the process to change and to show up like that.
Okay, and
Yeah.
again,
So-
I don't want to
Yeah,
belabor,
it is
but I
something,
had to
and
point
even
that out.
and even with the IT management, those things are now, and like software maintenance, I believe those things, some of those things are now going to be in the correct departments and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But over the years,
Okay.
we've done them that way.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Good question.
Michael?
Mr. Carmona?
Yeah. Well, I have the same question. If you will go to page number 1, in page number 1, you have then the current year at this moment, for example, revenues, we have 3.6. So if this is the truth, then we have $3.6 million as a revenues, and the original budget was for 5.2 millions. I know that the difference is 1.6, but at this moment we are at 75% of the budget. So we have 9 months, and only the next 3 months will be 100%. So in reality, it's not clear. It's not clear what means that in that page, because if you see the second column, it's a current year actual. This is the actual revenues that we have and the original budget. But it doesn't say then we have 25% reduction, for example. This is why we don't have that revenues. And because that 5.2 no needs to be 5.2, we try to go to 4.8. So I think then it is not easy to understand. All my interpretation is that it's wrong. So can you explain to me that, Regine? Or
There has not been an official budget amendment to change those yet. Right now, we're talking about things that list that came out with COVID-19 of the cuts and the cuts to revenue and things like that. But there is not an official budget amendment to change those things. So I understand what you're saying, but as of right now, we've collected 3.5 million in admin, and our budget is still 5.1. And so
yeah,
if we need to do something, I'm not sure, Sylvia. I know that budget amendment is on the agenda at some point to get that approved, and then we will change that.
yeah.
But these are the actual numbers that we have received. There's no, yeah.
Excuse me. Then I try to say, we try to approve something that is unreal. So I don't understand. We have to approve something that is real. And if they need to do something, we need to have a note that it says how that is working. Because we can say yes, but that doesn't mean that we are talking something that is realistic. So my suggestion is we need to go to real numbers for revenues and for expenditures. So in that way, we will understand that this report reflect reality. This is what I try to say.
Okay, you lost me, Alfonso. These are the real numbers. I'm not sure I'm following you.
Can I say something?
Yeah, Michael. Michael, at this moment, we are 75% of the budget. Are you agree with that?
Yeah.
So if we are 75%, the budget was not at this moment 5.2. The budget is with 4.8 because the assumption of revenues in the third column, in the second column, is the assumption is that you have $3.6 million, and we don't have $3.6 million. This is what I tried to say.
We have collected $3.6 million. That is the actual amount we have collected. The number that you're talking about changing would be the budget amount from 5.1 to 4.8. But we've still collected the 3.5.
Excuse me, this is general fund. General fund, after we will do reduction of 25%, will go to almost 4.8, no 5.2. So how you can have at this moment 3.6 in 9 months? 3.6.
That's how much we've collected. We have money in the bank.
Can I talk, Mr. Chairman? So if at this moment I have 3.6 and it's 75%, another 25% of that will be another $1.2 million. So at the end, we will have $4.8 million. So revenues.
Well, I want to say that I agree. I understand what Alfonso's saying, and Charles as well. And that's the struggle I have had all along, and I've said so, is that when we ask questions about line items and so forth, then there's some disclaimer about how, well, this is not really what it is, it's this and rather than that. And we need some kind of documentation of all of this so that we know what the assumptions are and why these things that shouldn't be under one department are nonetheless there, and it's been changed, and we don't know that. I think Charles outlined it very well, and I agree 100%. And I think Alfonso is in a way saying the same thing with specific items.
So let me see if I can explain this better. This column, total budget original, is what council adopted in September of last year for the fiscal year that we're in. The council discussed a lot of changes in COVID, froze some things, sent this committee to only look at essential services. But the final action of amending the budget never occurred. And that was because we kept thinking we were going to come out of COVID. So the real number is still 5.2. That's still the budget that we were operating under. 3.6 are actual revenues received to date, $3.6 million. If you scroll down to the next page, you will see that this year so far, we are still, we're short somewhat, but we're still meeting expenses. We still have more revenues than expenses.
But that's because we actually changed our budget without it showing up here, isn't it?
No, sir.
We did away with this. We're only doing essential services. We're not doing what the council last year, when they created the budget, assumed we would be doing.
Oh, yes, you're correct. We have artificially suppressed the expenses by just not expending, even without a budget amendment. Yes, you're right. We are holding down expenses based on discussions the council has had, but there has been no formal budget amendment to take it down to the 4 million amount.
We'll clean that up at the end.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. If we could somehow have some documentation of that we could read and look at, and it would help us understand it and probably make the meeting a lot shorter.
Well, the budget amendment will come back to the committee, Dr. Browning.
Pardon?
The budget amendment will come back to the committee for us to review before it goes to council. That's when you'll see all this.
Yeah, but we're shadow boxing right now.
Yep.
May I ask a question? This is Rudy.
Of course.
Go to page 1 of the general fund sales tax revenue.
I think that's what that is, isn't it?
No, go up some more.
Right there?
Thank you. Yes. Now on this page, normally we always see the full year. As you'll notice, and the same thing happened the last time we reviewed the sales tax, September and August are missing. When we have them, we can look at what the projections were, and then we can calculate the percentage for the full year, not just for 10 months. So my hesitation is this 76% 0.35 of 10 months, or is this 76% 0.35 of the total projections of last full year?
It's of the full year.
So could we ask to have August and September put in here from now on? To always put in the full year. That's what we're used to on the committee. And that way we can see what the projections are for each month.
Yes, that was my mistake. I was trying to make it easier and less confusing, but somehow doing that made it more confusing. So I'll make sure it's there every time.
It's what we're used to. Thank you.
And the reason it's so important is because if you sort of glance at it and you look at the monthly overage / shortfall, and you go all the way to the bottom, it looks like we're 1.1 million down, when in reality, you have to go to the year-to-date shortfall, overage shortfall, and we're really 321 thousands down. So you have to really study it. So that was my exact comment earlier on that one too, Susanna. So yes.
And so when we say that we're a shortfall, it's a shortfall considering we've cut out a lot of services that we normally would be doing based on the proposed budget that was approved for this year.
That's correct.
So
And that's, yes, that's that shortfall, and we haven't done any transfers or anything like that from the general fund. So had Regine done those transfers mid-year or something like that, that number would have been a lot bigger.
Yeah, a lot of the normal processes have gotten shelved this year just because of the chaos. My apologies to the newer committee members, but you'll see as we get toward the end, we'll clean that up. Any
Is
other
there
questions?
some
Eugene?
Is there some presentation you could come up with that would make all of this clearer about the fact that we're not really working against the budget? We're working against a budget that is not documented, and it's related to the fact that we have decreased many services.
Yes, we can certainly add, we can certainly clean this up, and we can add what we call the COVID budget. And I get it where it's confusing because you guys are seeing it in OpenGov. In OpenGov, you see that budget that's been adjusted for COVID, but you don't see it here. Understand?
Thank you.
Michael?
Alfonso?
Yeah, only I proposed if they can change in the first page the revenues, and in reality, if they will refer to the 12 months, not only 10 months. And if they are working with the first page, I think that will help, because this is it's true the word current year actual, but this is not that they planned, and we are doing these revenues with some planning. So at this moment, we expected to have more than 3.6. So if we have notes, or if she can put the real numbers, that will reflect a reality of these expenditures and revenues.
Do you want to put that in the form of a motion?
This is a motion. I would like to do that. If the staff they can correct.
Susanna?
Are we talking about the sales tax report?
Yes. And just adding the last two, the July and August.
Yeah, I can do that. I'll do that from now on. Do you guys want to see it like now, or did you want to see it like in the next time we do this?
Well, I'm comfortable that you'll add them appropriately if we want to make a motion to add those changes. Is that what you're saying, Alfonso?
Yeah, I think that they are doing the job, and it's also busy. And but if I have to be correct, I have to. We have to do that. So this is my suggestion. They can put that 2 months, how much money will be, and later they can go to the page number 1, and if they want to adjust that and make that change, please.
Can you scroll up?
May I ask Susanna? Susanna?
Yeah, what's up? Yeah.
Do you have the projection numbers for August and September so I can get that data now?
Yeah, Sylvia, if you go to the share drive, it's in there. It's under, actually, maybe, I don't think it's under the share drive. Hold on. I think it might be under the accounting drive.
Okay.
Yeah, it's under the accounting drive, under sales tax reports. And there is one, the 1921. Sorry, go back to, you'll want to look at the Excel spreadsheet.
Okay.
There you go, that one. And then you can unhide between rows 12 and 15. That's where it is. And then this is crime control. I think she wanted to look at general fund, which is the first tab.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does that work?
Yes.
Alfonso?
Yeah, but I cannot see that. Okay, but if they made that, that's very good. I don't think it's so small for my eyes, good friend.
Okay.
I am only
Yeah.
45 years, so I cannot see well, but
Alfonso, if you have
okay,
a,
so how much money would be? August, how much would be? So,
427,940.
that's
We can send you a copy.
414?
We send you a copy.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. For,
Yes.
yeah,
Send it to
okay,
all.
427 and 384. Thank you.
Yeah, send that to all of us.
Nana, can you get that out to everybody?
I'm working on it right now.
Okay. Okay, so there was a motion to accept the financials with the changes so shown right here. Adding August and September, that's a little more specific. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
John, are you good?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. Was there a second?
Second.
Dr. Browning made a second?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other conversation? Questions?
Move the question.
Called the question. Let's just, I think we're all probably good. All in favor say aye.
All right.
Opposed nay?
Yeah,
Okay. Mark?
I don't have a chat from Mark yet. So let's see.
Mr. Bruner?
There he is. Yes.
Okay, good. I think that was the last item on our agenda.
Future meeting dates, the topics for the next budget and finance committee.
Future meeting dates and topics. Are we ready to go back to our monthlies? I would encourage everybody to tune in and listen to the presentation of the budget to council, and then if they have public hearing, be a part of that.
So we are going to have the budget filed on the 12th. We're going to have an OpenGov complete interactive budget as well as a PDF version online that is going to look very similar to OpenGov. We're also going to open an open town hall comment section that folks can comment on the budget and support other comments that are made about the budget. And the budget's going to come along with some what we call storyboards in OpenGov, just specific information to each department, employees, count, everything that you guys have gone over. We're putting it in a consolidated, neat format. What I would absolutely like this committee to start in September, if you would not like to take a month off, is we begin on the capital budgeting.
Yep, no, that's fine. That's kind of what I'd anticipated we would do. Rose, if I know this is your budget, and you've been with us a lot of the meetings, if we're here for you too, if you want to meet with us and go over anything, what are we thinking? I'd like to offer that up. We're all available to help in any way we can with getting that budget ready for the membership. Members.
So
The
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
So yes, thank you to Wanda and Rudy. I've already set up appointments with them, and Charles Goyette's been reaching out to me every week. John Belanca, I would like to touch base with you. I hadn't had a chance. Somehow your number got moved out of my phone, and then Dr. Browning also has been reaching out to me almost weekly. Michael, you had told me before, and I've also talked to Mark Bruner, although not in the last 2 weeks. Michael, you had told me earlier this year that you did not want to meet with me, and in the last few emails I had sent, you had sort of highlighted that. Are you changing that position now?
If you have a specific question, sure. I just offered if you wanted to meet with the committee as a group to have a conversation, we're happy to do that.
Oh, well, I file next week, so I don't think there's time to pull your group into another meeting. thanks for the offer.
Good. Okay.
Michael, what was the name of the city that you mentioned? I hadn't gotten on yet about the article in the Statesman.
Lakeway.
Lakeway. Okay, thanks.
Okay. No other items to cover. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Browning and John Belanca. All in favor, say aye.
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 Good night, all.
Good night.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.